a lot of interest in it, and I just recently had those machines serviced. They've been out of action for a wee while just due to a bit of inactivity, but we've just spent quite a lot of money on them recently and got a new Adobe processor and new lamps and all that kind of thing. So we're going to be screening probably 1 or 2 films a month from now on 35, and there's a special lot of interest in the art world. Maybe commercially it's not as viable these days, but there's a lot of interest from artists to display and to screen films that have kind of significant art context. In our control room we have 2 35mm machines, and I've also got a 16mm machine elsewhere in the building so we can project both those formats. Say we don't do it very often because it's quite an expensive process compared to projecting digital film. A digital film we can get a DVD or a Blu-ray or a USB stick even, and put it in the computer and project it almost immediately, whereas 35mm film or 16mm film all has to be prepared in advance and spliced together and laced up and all these things checked, so it's more expensive for that.
Oh, that's the $1,000,000 question. I think everyone says Ghostbusters or Back to the Future and things like that. Probably say see now I'm thinking. I'd probably say my favourite film would probably be Back to the Future, just because it's a cult classic and everyone loves that. But again, everyone loves Goodfellas as well. But go with the classics. Probably Back to the Future.
My favourite film is Interstellar because I'm a bit of a geek and I love a good space movie.
I'd say Back to the Future, the first one.
Kind of stumped in this one, I'd say Dumb and Dumber.
Just anything. To be honest, something as cheesy as Independence Day is as kind of up there as any of them. I enjoy a wide range. So.
Mine's a Scarface.
Do you know?
I love movies about space, and it's really a really interesting movie, kind of mixing science fiction with science fact.
It might have just been because I've seen it so young, and it's just been ingrained in my mind. But on that, I mean, it's a great film. It's got everything you ever need. Obviously, you've got the sci-fi and whatnot in it, but it's still a great story. And obviously, I think everybody can relate to it. Like, well, what would if I was in that situation? Would I go on with my parents and things like that? Probably not. But I think everyone can identify with it and find a kind of humour in it.
Makes me laugh.
I don't know, Back to the Future is just a classic.
Good question. I don't know, just the storyline behind Scarface is brilliant, and it's 3 hours long, and obviously films from back then weren't that long.
Because I really like the humour and sarcasm in it. It's my humour, exactly.
Which ones were shot on film, which ones were shot on digital? So Gone Girl was shot on film, Interstellar was shot on digital, and The Artist was shot on film.
I would probably say film for that one.
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
I'll just say film.
And The Great Gatsby.
And that probably be digital, wouldn't it?
You got all of them right.
Oh, surprise.
I'd say Gatsby and Interstellar were both digitally. It was probably I don't know anything about it, but I'd say on video, on the reel. I assume digital.
Interstellar.
I assume digital.
And The Great Gatsby.
Film.
Film.
Yeah.
First one digitally. Second one, what was it?
So that probably wasn't digital.
Probably not digital. And then, sorry?
Film.
What was the last one?
Interstellar.
I don't even know what that film is, so I don't know.
Is it spacey? I'd say it's digital.
I think now that everything's gone digital, it's totally opened things up. There's no elite anymore. Anyone can grab a camera these days and make a film. So it's down to ourselves now. It's down to us to keep being creative. Yes, it means we can do thousands of takes, but some people are just chucking anything out there. There's billions of awful films that people will never watch. So it's finding the good stuff and using it properly. But it's much more affordable, so anyone can get hold of it. And there's now loads of film competitions just recording there's a 7-second film on your phone at the moment. So it means anyone can get out there as long as they've got something to say. Sales state, no matter what format it's on, it should always be down to the story first, and as long as we get creative stories so it'll make people breathe and think still, that's what we're looking for. I guess there are cons to it, but the cons again are just that it's good that anyone can make a film, but it's also bad that anyone can make a film. Because some people have got voices, so it's just come from an ego. Maybe cut that bit out, that's just nasty. I think as long as it's used to tell a really good story, then we shouldn't worry about what's being used. I still like that some directors are using film, and I think it stands out still. People like Christopher Nolan always using film. But pioneers in the digital, like James Cameron and stuff, we wouldn't be doing the films he is without that technology. And Robert Rodriguez starting from nothing and starting from no money and being able to build up his own style and his own edit lab. That sort of thing's pretty phenomenal. And that's someone who's so prolific. His films aren't always great, but just he wants to tell stories and he wants to do things. Same with Steven Soderbergh as well, as far as like the early 90s and building up through the mediums. David Lynch moving on to digital and just taking advantage of it rather than dismissing it completely. I know you can make digital look like film these days anyway, but I think we maybe still are aware of the differences. I don't know who else always uses film, but I know Chris Nolan still does it. No, I don't think there is a difference anymore, but it's nice that people have got that feeling for tradition, I think, more than anything. I don't prefer one of the formats. I just like that they're all been able to work together, so they're all been used rather than we must change and we must move on to something else. Is that what that question was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? That was brilliant.